Hello, thanks for being in a new video. This time I have a complete review of the DJI Mic Mini. Let's start. These are wireless microphones that are definitely going to be part of the kit of many content creators, not only for the good quality they have, but also for the good design and several benefits that I will tell you below. For starters, let me give you some context because I had the first generation of the DJI mic. Overall, the experience was good, but I think it is not as advanced in terms of feel in the hand as we saw in the large model of the first generation. This is the first generation of this mini variant, which as the name suggests, are much more compact microphones, although they also have some limitations with respect to the large model. So gradually let me go telling you all this, but first I tell you its price, which in Mexico has been 3,199 pesos. On screen you see the reference price in dollars just to give you an idea, but remember that the prices here are not the same as there. Once we have known this, join me to know its design. The case, I must tell you that it gives the feeling of being a cheaper device. I think it is not as advanced in terms of the feel in the hand as we saw in the large model of the first generation. On the top we see a small relief for the DJI brand. On the back we see access to the USB-C port that will be with which we are going to charge it. Do not have wireless charging, and in the front come LEDs indicators of battery status, a button to remove the clasp with which this case opens and closes. In fact, this element of the clasp I personally did not like. I would prefer a design where the lid opens immediately. I understand that perhaps it is for safety at the time. I've never personally had the first generation open by accident, so I find it slightly more uncomfortable to have to press the button every time I want to open the case, which is not really a big deal. I'm just commenting on the level of user experience. But once we have opened the case, we find directly the microphones and the transmitter. It will remind a lot of the case of a headset, but evidently much larger. Each transmitter has a weight of only 10 grams, so it is really quite comfortable, unlike the standard model that can be heavier and can even generate that hangs a little on top of clothing. Remember that there are several ways to place this transmitter. For starters, we have a clip that comes included. Just exert a little pressure and you can place it on the neck of the clothing, and in this way is quite practical. But remember that it also comes with a small magnet that has very good absorption. So even on fabrics that are slightly thick, it will stick well, so you can place the microphone on the outside slightly lower in case you want a little more distant pickup of your voice, or you want it to pick up a little more of the environment. You can easily place it wherever you want, or if you prefer a little more discreet design. You can place the microphone inside so that on the outside you just see a little magnet. So it's also a different way to use it, and in all cases I think the placement is quite practical and simple. Each transmitter is gonna have two LEDs built in, the current status LED on, off and the like, and on the other side is another LED that you're going to notice lights up yellow when you have noise cancellation enabled. To enable or disable noise cancellation, simply press the power button on the side once. Next to the power button is placed a pairing button in case the microphones become unlinked from the receiver. Simply press and hold to enter this pairing mode and very quickly detected. Or you can place them on in the case and ready, there is no problem in that sense. And on the top, there will be the grill for the microphone, and you also notice two large perforations next to that grill, and that's for these what are called windscreens that are going to allow us to have a better audio pickup in outdoor environments. While indoors I don't think they're that necessary. For outdoor recordings they're going to be very necessary in order to avoid any additional noise. So it looks like you're putting your hair wig on it, but definitely, as I say, it helps so that the wind is not obstructing your audio and you have better quality. If you are going to record outdoors, it is highly recommended that you use it. Although you could also place, as I said, the microphone inside and put the magnet on the outside, and that way you could also have an audio pickup a little freer from the wind without having this element here very visible. But you appreciate the fact that these windshields are built in. In fact, they come in a black shade and also in this shade as between light and dark. And something interesting too is that you don't need to remove the windscreen when you're going to store this in the case, so you can close it completely and the windscreen is still protected. It's not going to get mistreated at any point. So this is another one of those accessories that you can get to put in. However, in this case, they do not have 3.5mm jack, as if we find it in the larger models that would allow us to connect another lavalier microphone or some headset microphone and simply take advantage of the wireless transmission capabilities of the microphone. In this case, it relies exclusively on the integrated microphone, which is of very good quality, but it does not have that other type of applications. You are also going to notice that the front side has the brand logo, although it is slightly oriented. To the right, it actually has a few little cuts in it, so it's not completely flat on the lid for some odd reason, possibly because of the arrangement of the internal parts, but that's pretty much what we see. And on the bottom are the pins that it will charge with when you put it in the case. But now let's get to know the receiver, which is the one that I have in this case placed here in the cell phone. Notice that we are going to find another slightly larger piece where there are also important elements. To begin with, the USB-C connector that I have in place right now, notice that it can be removed, although it is not necessary to remove it every time you are going to put the receiver away. So I leave it permanently in place. But unlike the first generation DJI mic that I had, in this case, the direction in which this connector is placed is going to cause that when you connect it to the cell phone or you connect it, so if you're going to record a person who is maybe talking at a very soft volume, you can adjust it directly from here. In fact, interestingly, in addition to having this integrated connector, there is also another USB-C port here at the bottom that can be used to charge it in an emergency or also to connect it by cable to a cell phone or some other product. Because you can also connect it to computers and it will also be detected as an interface, audio only. In this same area, we find the charging pins and note that on one of the sides is the on-off button, but there's also a small rotary wheel that will help us to adjust the gain. In case you are in a very noisy environment, it is advisable to lower the gain, but if you are going to record a person who may be talking at a very soft volume, you can adjust it directly from here. Although on the larger model that has a touchscreen, you can independently adjust the gain of each microphone. So if it gives you more capabilities, in this case you're a little more limited because you have one gain control, but for both microphones at the same time. However, I think that for the vast majority of this setting is more than enough. We will also find LEDs indicating the current status. If you have connected the two wireless microphones, or if you only have the two wireless microphones connected, there's one connected, and below these two LEDs there is another LED that indicates the status of this receiver. It's going to be blinking if it's still not properly connected to the device. And that's an indicator that looks simple, but it's very important because I think in a much easier visual way, it lets you know if you have a proper connection, or if maybe the USB port on your cell phone has a little bit of dust or lint that might suddenly build up and it's preventing it from making good contact. So this LED is going to stay on as long as it detects that it is properly connected, and you are also going to notice that it can get to change to a blue color in case you have stereo recording enabled, which we will talk about in a moment. On the other side we have the reconnect button and also a 3.5mm jack, which in this case would be useful to take the audio out of this transmitter and introduce it to a camera. So if you have a camera that has this support for connecting external microphones, you could perfectly take advantage of this transmitter. In fact, this receiver is also going to have a little clip on the bottom that's going to serve as an adapter and as a shim to put it securely on top of a camera. So the whole design is very well thought out. By the way, in this case, I forgot to tell you that the connector that comes included is USB-C, which is the port that has both Android and the most recent iPhones. But if you have an iPhone from past generations, they also sell separately the adapter to have the lightning connector. Now let's talk about the audio quality that these microphones get, and obviously, what better than listening to an audio recorded with them. But first I tell you that they are omnidirectional microphones, so they will pick up all the audio that is around. That's why it's important that they also have noise cancellation, something that is going to help you quite a bit in environments that have more distractions. And it also has a low frequency cutoff, which is very nice, although that is enabled through the app. This cutoff helps you avoid those constant noises that might come from appliances such as a refrigerator or an air conditioner that is constantly emitting that sound. You can get around it somewhat with this cut, so if you have the low cut on it, we're recording a range from 100 Hz to 20 kHz pretty well, and with the low cutoff it records from 20 Hz to 20 kHz as it should. Another interesting fact is that not only can you control the gain from this dial, which helps quite a bit, but they also have an automatic gain control that would allow you to avoid any kind of clipping in overly noisy environments. They also have noise cancellation, but in 2 levels, so also if you perceive that your voice is getting a little more distorted than you would like with the more advanced cancellation, you can lower the level. And as I anticipated a moment ago, you have mono recording or stereo recording, because remember that in this case you have 2 microphones. So if you want, you can have the 2 microphones in a single audio track, or if you prefer for a little more advanced editing and you have greater possibilities in post-production, you can record one of the microphones on the right channel and one of the microphones on the left channel. Although I insist this is much more intended for professional use where you are going to mix the audio later, but most people will opt for the mono recording mode. But it is definitely appreciated the fact of having that additional possibility, and also for professional use in post-production, have an option of security track that will record the microphones have a track with less gain than another to prevent any kind of saturation or distortion in the recording. What we will not find in this model that we do find in the large model is the ability to record the audio locally. This option is also important, and I would even dare to say that I would not even leave it exclusive for professional use, because sometimes where you are in a place where there is too much interference. Maybe there are many people or there are many content creators. Using the same microphone could get to have some interference, although it is very unlikely to happen with these microphones. But in the event that you are in an environment where there are too many wireless signals and too much interference, in the normal model if you can press a button to record the sound locally. However, in these microphones do not have that option, so if suddenly during your recording there was a small interference, there is no way to rescue it. That is one of the most important sacrifices that have these microphones, and why I think they have also managed to lower the cost, because it has no internal storage in it and therefore also make them more compact. I think that is the key differential element between the standard model and the mini model. I insist, it is unlikely that you are going to witness interference, but in case it occurs, you do not have that support you do have in the large model. But let's go now and listen to different tests, starting with a test here indoors, and then after that we test it in other environments as well.
Aquí estás escuchando el audio captado con este micrófono colocado con el clip directamente en el cuello de mi playera, para que notes más o menos cuál sería la calidad del audio. En este caso estoy en un lugar relativamente silencioso con muy poco ruido alrededor. Vamos ahora a bajar el micrófono colocado con imán. Ahora el micrófono está colocado un poco más lejos de mi boca, entonces el audio posiblemente ha perdido un poco de presencia en las partes graves, pero sigue siendo un audio suficientemente bueno, probablemente también para captar más cosas de lo que estás haciendo. Si estás cocinando o alguna otra cosa, puede ser un sonido ligeramente más ambiental. De hecho, también lo podrías combinar. Si quieres sonidos específicos, podrías acercar uno de los micrófonos a la zona donde estás haciendo la actividad y otro micrófono dejarlo un poco más cerca de tu voz. Pero más o menos esta sería la experiencia. Y esta sería la otra forma de uso que personalmente no me gusta, pero muchos creadores la utilizan, porque sí, el audio se capta un poco más dirigido hacia el micrófono y por lo tanto tiene una nitidez ligeramente mayor. Insisto, no están pensados para usarse de esta manera, pero muchos lo usan así. Ahora he encendido la cancelación de ruido para que más o menos tengas una idea también de cómo se llega a captar, aunque en este caso estaba en un ambiente relativamente silencioso. De cualquier manera, al estar en interiores se genera cierta reverberación que es muy bien trabajada por este micrófono, así que se recomienda bastante utilizar esta cancelación. En este caso estoy utilizando el micrófono en este formato, que sería lo mejor dirigido a la voz, aunque realmente no hay tanta diferencia si lo colocas cerca de tu playera. Entonces aquí está colocado en la playera con la cancelación de ruido, y creo que la calidad de audio sin lugar a dudas que es es buena, pero vamos a probarlo ahora en un entorno de exteriores y también en entornos ruidosos. Estamos grabando ahora en un entorno de exteriores. Está pasando viento en este momento y estoy utilizando esta especie de difusor del viento para evitar ese ruido que de pronto se podría llegar a presentar. Tengo la cancelación de ruido desactivada, pero en este entorno la verdad no hay demasiado ruido y no se genera tanta reverberación como podría ser en interiores. Entonces esta es la calidad de audio. Voy a ir a un entorno donde tal vez se logre distinguir un poco más de ruido, posiblemente autos pasando o algún otro entorno para seguir analizando su comportamiento. Pero por ahora esto es lo que nos puede llegar a ofrecer. Y obviamente la ventaja de estar grabando con micrófono es que no necesitas estar hablando directo a la cámara. Perfectamente se va a seguir captando tu audio si te mueves hacia otra zona donde no estás de frente a la cámara. Y como te dije, tiene un alcance de 600 metros. Entonces voy a seguir caminando, platicando con ustedes para ver más o menos y vamos a seguir avanzando. Entonces el audio se debe seguir captando muy bien. En este momento hay una llave de agua aquí, así que posiblemente la escuches porque no tengo la cancelación de ruido más intensa habilitada. Entonces voy a seguir avanzando nada más para que me sigas distinguiendo desde por ahí. Yo estoy a una distancia, ni siquiera es demasiado. Yo creo que serán como unos 25 metros, 30 metros máximo. Insisto, será muy difícil que tú quieras grabar a una distancia todavía más lejana. Es poco práctico, pero ver un alcance tan lejano en el soporte del micrófono evidentemente que será algo positivo. Ahora voy a correr mucho más lejos y vamos a probar que también puede llegar a cancelar el ruido del viento, porque al ir corriendo hay más viento chocando contra mí y también el alcance. Entonces voy corriendo en este momento y vamos a ver. Yo creo que estoy suficientemente lejos para una escena muy normal. No creo que grabes a una distancia tan lejana, pero de cualquier forma voy a correr más lejos. En este momento hay más obstáculos también que se podrían llegar a interponer. Ahora ya volví a estar más o menos alineado hacia la cámara y este sería el resultado. Por aquí estoy. Voy a ir un poco más lejos y vemos qué tal. A ver, ahí estamos y hay mucho más aire presente aquí. Entonces habría que ver si el micrófono cancela bien este ruido del viento. Ahora vamos a volver y sigo corriendo un poco. Vamos a ver. No conocías mi faceta de parkour, pero eso es lo mejor que puedo hacer. Y listo. Vamos corriendo ahí de regreso. Aquí hay una llave de agua, por cierto. Y ya estamos.
Soy un voluntario a la fuerza y voy a hacer... No es cierto, soy un voluntario y voy a hacer la prueba extrema. A ver, en este momento voy a la parte más lejana del campo de béisbol. De momento sigo un poquito lejos en la prueba anterior. Ok, tengo que ir corriendo, ya me regañaron. Sale, estamos bajando las escaleras. De momento no parece haber ruido, más que el que van haciendo mis pies. Sale, ya estoy aquí. Ya entra la parte del pastito. Vamos a ver qué tal graba el audio. Ya voy como a medio camino de todo el campo. Y vamos a ver qué tal graba el audio en la parte más lejana de este campo de béisbol. Ya no sé ni dónde están. Los perdí de vista. Ya no vi dónde quedaron, pero bueno, estoy hasta por acá. Espero que me estén grabando. Ah, ya los vi, ya vi a Steve. Estoy saludando a Steve, pero no veo a Isa. Yo espero que lo haya grabado y que todo esté correctamente bien. Ya vi a Isa. Vamos a volver a correr. A ver si hay alguna clase de interferencia. Ya siento el viento, pero vamos a ver cómo graba el audio este microfonito. Vengo, ya vi a Isa. Parece que es una misión exitosa si no le salió ningún aviso en la pantalla.
Y bueno, este sería otro caso de uso. Vamos aquí en un carro donde se genera un poco de ruido mientras vamos conduciendo y tengo dos micrófonos. Ahí está el señor Pablo atrás.
Hola, hola, estoy cansado, hice la prueba extrema.
Él fue el encargado de hacer la prueba extrema y bueno, nada más es otra prueba para que más o menos tengas esta idea de cómo podrías grabar una conversación incluso en el carro. ¿Qué partidos hay hoy, Pablito?
El día de hoy me parece que había Champions, ya no la vimos, no puede ser.
Entonces, más o menos esta es la calidad. Vamos a grabar sin micrófono para que notes la diferencia que sería grabar sin micrófono. Entonces esta sería la experiencia con los micrófonos del celular. A ver, Pablito, dinos otra vez los partidos que había hoy.
Hoy no recuerdo exactamente qué partidos había, porque hay unos martes y otros miércoles, pero ya no vimos ninguno de hoy.
Pues eso sería más o menos. Ahora vamos a probar la cancelación de ruido. En este momento está en un nivel muy básico, no tiene el modo especial encendido. Entonces, más o menos estamos aquí grabando. No es un entorno tan ruidoso, hay que decirlo, pero ahora vamos a encender la cancelación de ruido para más o menos tener una idea. Déjame que volvamos a acelerar para que se note más el ruido. Ahí estamos. Ahora vamos a encenderla y en este momento se habilitó la cancelación. No sé si se logra percibir una diferencia en este tipo de escenarios donde todavía no es un ruido extremo. Voy a volver a apagarla y más o menos esa sería la diferencia. Hay una moto aquí cerca, vamos a ver si con la moto sí se llega a notar un poco más de diferencia. Vamos a encenderla y ahí está encendida la cancelación. Más o menos. Ahorita probamos en un entorno todavía más ruidoso. Y bueno, vámonos con una prueba mucho más complicada. En este momento no hay ningún ruido a mi alrededor. El audio está siendo captado por este micrófono, pero vamos a poner un ruido en nuestro sistema de audio. En este momento hay un ruido intenso. Posiblemente tú sigues escuchando todavía mi voz, pero definitivamente que el ruido puede llegar a complicar las cosas. Escucha cómo suena el ruido ambiental. En este momento hay un ruido fuerte alrededor de mí y causaría que el audio no se escuche correctamente, pero vamos a ver, en este caso tengo... Ahora vamos a encender la cancelación de ruido porque hasta el momento estábamos con la cancelación apagada, entonces déjame verificar, ahí estamos. En este momento está funcionando la cancelación de ruido en el formato predeterminado, así que vamos a revisar qué tal está. Voy a subir incluso todavía más el ruido. En este momento es un estruendo completo alrededor de mí y bueno, no creo que sea un escenario en el que vas a grabar audio teniendo tanto ruido a tu alrededor, pero esa fue la prueba. Ahora vamos a probar la cancelación de ruido intensa. Recuerda que esto lo puedes cambiar en la configuración a través de la aplicación. Entonces vamos a activar otra vez el ruido de fondo. Ahí está empezando a sonar, pero ya tengo la cancelación encendida. Déjame apagarla simplemente para que más o menos notes la diferencia. En este momento está apagada, ahora va a estar encendida y vamos a subir todavía más el nivel del ruido que tenemos atrás. En este momento es un ruido intenso, la verdad, nadie va a querer grabar en estas condiciones de ruido, pero si lo llegaras a hacer, este sería el resultado más o menos. Voy a apagar la cancelación, ahí está apagada y ahora voy a volver a encender la cancelación y este sería el resultado. Esta es la máxima cancelación de ruido posible, pero insisto, será poco común que grabes con tanto ruido. En este momento sigue habiendo ruido, pero hemos terminado la prueba. Ya no hay nada de ruido.
Now let's talk about the battery life, which in this case has benefited because the size is smaller, so there is more room for battery as well. On the case specifically, the manufacturer shares that it could get up to 48 hours of battery life. However, in practical life, it's going to be slightly less if you use the noise cancellation constantly. But either way, it's still a very long battery life that for a large number of people is going to be enough. Both the transmitter and the receiver will last approximately 11 hours, this individually, but considering the case you can reach 48 hours. It takes 90 minutes to fully charge, although with 5 minutes that you connect them to charge can give you more or less 1 hour operation. So I do not think there are too many drawbacks at the time to be using these microphones with respect to battery life. In fact, it is a very good duration. They also integrate an automatic power saving mode, and they can also automatically turn off if it detects that you're not really using them. Although that could also cause that if you're one of the people that always leave the microphone on and always on for any occasion that you're going to need it, it could turn off without you even realizing it. So you have to just verify that everything is still active, but you can easily verify it through the LEDs on the receiver then. There's no downside, and it's a major benefit, so it doesn't drain your battery so fast. Now let's talk a little bit about the connection. And this is something important because these microphones are part of the Osmo ecosystem. So if you have an Osmo Action 5 Pro or also an Osmo Action 4 or one of the most popular cameras among content creators, which is the Osmo Pocket 3, you don't even need this receiver. So it can automatically detect it, and that helps you to have. If you have to carry less stuff, then it could simplify your kit of things you take on a trip or something similar quite a bit. The range is about 400 meters, although this is always measured without any obstacles. If there are bigger obstacles, obviously the distance will be reduced. But in general, I think no one records at such a far distance your audio compared to the video, so it really has enough. And I remind you once again that you can use it on both iPhone and Android, both with USB-C and Lightning. So for the moment, we have reached the end of the video of these microphones. Personally, I found them very good. They have a very good audio quality. Cancellation is also positive, and the fact of allowing you to control several things from the application also helps you to make up a little the fact of not having touchscreen as they have the large models. For the moment, we have come to the end. I hope you liked it. If so, you know you can tell us, and we'll see you next time.